Yeah, we're officially live and we're recording. So thanks so much to everyone who's joined us. We were mentioning earlier that we had about 150 people register. So wherever you are in the world, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and thanks so much for joining us for the first NFE Wild Picnic series. First things first, I'm not actually about to summit Lion's Head. I'm just the only one in Durban, so I'm feeling quite left out. And also, I'm nowhere near as interesting as the guides you're about to hear from, so I thought I'd try and spruce things up. Yeah, guys, we budgeted some time for Q&A towards the end of the webinar. If you do have a question, use the Q&A section on the bottom of your screen, and we'll answer that via text, but then we'll also bring up a few questions at the end. The chat does not seem to be working, which might be a good thing because those can be distracting with us. But yeah, again, thanks so much for joining. I'm going to hand over to the real stars of the show, Ingram and his guides. And yeah, you guys can take it away. Grab a drink and enjoy.
Brilliant. Well, welcome from Cape Town. We kind of really had quite a positive week. We've gone into level 3 of what we call our lockdown. And the big things, particularly from the guiding perspective, is we're allowed back on the mountain, certain areas of it. We're not allowed on the beach, but although chatting to them, people have found their own little routes to get into the to get into the sea. And we've been doing various virtual wine tours, and finally we can actually go out and buy booze and wine. So things are definitely moving in the right direction, and guides are allowed to guide locally. So it really feels like we're going in the right direction, and the vibe seems to be from travel that's the feeling at the moment. So just welcome to our first Wild Picnic. You obviously get to hear about New Frontiers Escapes, normally at trade shows. Some of you would have hopefully been on tours with us before, but the one thing that the virtual world is giving us is access to our guides. They're at home rather than up the mountain and guiding people. And so the idea is really to let them do the talking. Like Scotty said, we've got the Q&A, so please fire questions into there. I'm going to quickly introduce Kirsty and Millie, and they will answer questions as we're going along, and then we, at the end, sort of pick up any of the sort of key questions. We can have a little Q&A at the end. So Kirsty is head of our travel adventure planner. Kirsty, I don't know if you can just quickly describe what your role is.
Sure, Ingram, thanks so much. Hi, everyone. My name's Kirsty. I head up the adventure planner section of New Frontiers Escapes. I work very closely with all of our third-party activities. So if your client wants to go whale watching or shark cage diving, I'm the one that books all of that, as well as any places that they want to, their lunch places like their local eats, fine dining, picnics. Also organize that. I also follow the weather very closely, because if a storm is looming and they have a picnic booked, then I think it's pretty important to change that. So we're quite flexible in that way. Also, what's a very special aspect on the guest experience is sending their welcome packs to their hotels. So it's a really nice little welcome pack, tells them what they're going to be doing the next day, as well as what to expect and what to pack. I also send their agents welcome packs as well. So that's exactly what I do.
Yeah, because I mean, God forbid a guest doesn't read their itinerary before they go, and that quite often is the case. And so that they get their detailed sort of itinerary of what they're going to be doing. And I think what's really nice with Kirsty as well, it's just one of the few times that Kirsty gets all the feedback from the guides, and so with pictures, and so you're able to actually see your guests on tour. Usually within a few days of them being out with us, and getting that feedback from the guides, because they are on the road a lot. It's all sent to our voice notes, and and Kirsty pulls that all together. So she really is a sort of key to, and her team, to the flexibility that we offer. And then Millie, who's head of our touring and head adventure architect. Mills, just explain your role.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us. So I manage the touring at our HQ in Nordic in the Cape Peninsula. I tailor the itineraries to make sure that all the special touches are added. So yeah, always send as much info as possible. If there's any birthdays or anniversaries you want to flag to us, we'll make sure we make the day even more special. And then alongside this, I brief the guides, assuring that each and every guide is best suited to your client's tours. That's me in a nutshell.
So you'll be monitoring the Q&A, and it's really what today's about is the guides. I mean, if you imagine, you know, what lockdown felt for you, these are guys that rarely sit in an office, or never sit in an office. They're always out and about, and they've, you know, one of my highlights of my day, we're on the Peninsula route where our office is, and we often pop in, and it's like a breath of fresh air. And in terms of what they've been doing during lockdown has been incredible. So with Matt has been going out with a group of other guides, and they've delivered over 100,000 sandwiches in the space of 6 weeks into Sommelier township near us, so that, you know, everyone has a meal a day, which has been incredible. 5 of the guides decided to run 100 miles around their 500-meter gardens, and raised 100,000 rand for the Rock Girls and supporting 60 families. We'll hear about them later, but you know, there's definitely not been much sitting around. You know, well, let's go straight in. I mean, we'll hear a bit more about each of you a bit later on, but just as an icebreaker, love to hear what your favourite thing to do is in the Cape. I'm going to start with Jackie.
Yeah, so my favorite thing, without a doubt, is to go and visit the penguins, because they're so cute in their little penguin suits as they waddle along. Yeah, and even in my spare time then without guests, I will go underneath and free dive with them and see them flap around. So that's my favorite thing.
Brilliant. Josh, your favorite experience in the Cape that you love to do yourself?
Yeah, hey guys. So I think I'm labeled as a bit of a surfing sommelier, and that sums me up. I'm surfing in the morning and then exploring wine farms in the afternoon. So yeah, I mean, that's my vibe.
And Matt?
There's so many, but I think definitely watching guests' eyes pop as we do a heli flip over the Elgin mountain range and False Bay region, and landing in a remote, beautiful Fynbos area for a private wine tasting definitely ticks it for me.
Yeah, you seem to always score those helicopter flips. I think there's some favoritism going on there.
Keep sending them.
And then, well, Marcus, as you might be able to sort of tell by the hair length, is our most senior guide, head guide, but yeah, he's sort of Yoda of the group. But Marcus, in terms of in terms of sort of what you feel guests are going to be wanting, I mean, you're spending a lot of time with guests, and you were talking to me about it, sort of after this sort of experience of not traveling for so long, what we've been through.
Well, I think that the big thing that this whole world has been taught is to push the reset button. And once we get back out there, I think the 2 key elements that are going to be coming back are anything nature and activity orientated, and also connecting. I mean, just talking from my own personal point of view, I love surfing and swimming in the water, and it's actually not the act of surfing I'm missing, it's the act of simply just going into the water. So it's awakening those senses. But yeah, there's definitely going to be a lot more purposeful travel. I think people are going to be taking those small moments not so much for granted, and I think we're going to come out invigorated. People are going to be looking for space. It's not going to be about just ticking a list. It's going to be more experiential, connecting, and, you know, getting your senses involved. So I think everybody's really excited to get back out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that leads quite nicely into, I'm just going to share my screen quickly in terms of, you know, what's that? Oh, 1 second. There you go. Yes, I mean, in terms of, you know, what I've sort of felt is that basically, and it's a key to what we've always been about, the sort of the difference is exploring like a local and getting those connections, but also sort of that personalized and flexible. We've spent, you know, so many weeks now being told what to do. I think when people are out of this, not having to stick to a rigid itinerary is going to be more important than ever. Just that flexibility to really do things on a whim. And so in this wild picnic today, what we're really going to cover is, you know, how to get the most out of our touring. We're going to do future wild picnics where we'll go into specific regions and types of travelers. But today it's really the secrets behind what makes our touring flexible and what makes it tick, and to give you a bit more of an insight on how to use us and also the confidence to pass different types of clients over and the value that we're going to add. The key thing, it's easy to say, yes, we explore like a local, we offer flexibility, but the two key areas that we've worked on and sort of built our touring around is having all the gear that we need to be able to do that, and then also the guides and the storytellers themselves. So that's what we're going to have a look at. Starting off with what we call our adventure utility vehicles, and this is, they come back each evening to our centre here in the Nordic Farm Village, and we have a team that repacks them like we treat them like 5-star hotel rooms, and have everything that you need on board. So we've got the sort of standard paddle boards, toy bags, hiking packs, but it's more what's in the safari cooler and the gourmet pantry, which I'm going to sort of pass over to Matt, and how he uses all this stuff on board.
Yeah, so what we try and do here is, we now more than ever, it's vital to support local businesses. So everything you see in this picture here is found within Cape Town and has a unique story. So basically what this allows us to do is what our signature moments, or our magic little tricks that we have along a tour, and to create very brief moments similar to a safari style of guest delights. And we give guests the option to taste a bit of Cape Town and make use of sunsets and beautiful kind of unique moments on a tour. And this gives them a little bit of insight to the greater Cape Town and product.
And I think just to add there with Matt, also just like to give a bit more of a story to it. So like, you're not just drinking a craft beer, it's the story behind the craft beer. So for example, the coconut beer, from Drifters, he actually sailed all the way to Mozambique, got all the coconuts, brought it down and made Africa's first coconut beer, which is quite a thing in itself. So everything helps us as guides to tell a story, connect and bonding to the product itself.
And these are great little things to pull over onto the side of the road, and we have coffee and with a story, and it just allows us to kind of show guests and make that situation be in that moment a little bit more special.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to move on to the next slide briefly, because I mean, I think these, as well as our sort of signature moments, these wild setups have become a real feature. I mean, how do you decide when to do one of these, Matt?
So these are I'd say are taking the time to slow the travel down, slow the day down, use these moments to kind of avoid the crowds and manage the day a little bit better. So if it's a family just hanging out on that beach a little bit longer after a walk, and just setting these up, they're a little bit more, we go into a little bit more detail when we put these together, but basically it's just to slow things down, use the Cape Peninsula, the winelands, the mountains and the beaches as a way of connecting the families and guests that we have, whether it's a romantic sunset or a family day on the beach.
I know, Jackie, when I've been to Cape Point a couple of times, everyone seems to have their own little secret spots. I mean, is that something you share between you, or because of your wild picnics and things like that?
Well, I mean, I think we are colleagues, but we're also friends. So sometimes, yeah, I guess we do share a little tip of when we know the southeaster is blowing. But yeah, I know there's one spot in particular that I do love, is down by Olifantsbos. You have your picnic, ostriches walking on the beach. I mean, you don't get anything better than that, really. So,
yeah, and I think that's nice. Go on, Matt.
No, this basically allows the guides us to have the flexibility to pull the magic tricks out the bag, so to speak, which is really a big help and a key part of the guest satisfaction.
Yeah, and I think like in terms of these setups, I mean, we've got one on top of Lion's Head here, you know, in Cape Point. These are ones that we haven't pre-set up. The guides, the one on the beach has 2 families that have come together, you know, they're traveling together, multi-generational. And then in peak season, when it's busier, our operations team go out early in the morning, and you'll quite often in peak season you've got a wind factor as well as things being busier, and that's where we go and find the quiet spots and get set up, and the guides can come in, and they've got either a mountain setup or a beach setup that they've got access to, and they coordinate, much like on a safari where they have their radios. The guides use WhatsApp and communicating between them, so have everyone arriving at one spot at the same time. But that's really helped in peak season. But the majority of the time, it's really, you know, it's made so you're not doing it on the side of the road. It goes in the backpack, and it doesn't have to be strenuous, but you're getting away from the crowds. I think it works. And this kind of like leads nicely onto the picnic setups, and we've got 4 food options on tour. We've got the local eats. We have the wild picnics, which are probably the most popular 2. Fine dining, with the fine dining that's going to, you know, top chef restaurants, and the pop-up eating, pop-up private experiences. But I thought I'd start with Marcus, just in terms of, you know, what you feel works and what people should be sort of advising their clients to do in terms of lunch.
Yeah, so I just start off and say the thing that we spoiled for down in the Cape is we have this beautiful Mediterranean climate, and what makes good eating is good produce. So good climate, good produce, and I always say to everybody that comes and visits down here, you don't have to be in a top 100 restaurant in the world. You could be having fish and chips in the harbour all the way up to one of the top 100 restaurants in the world. But a particular favorite of mine is actually the local eats. There's a lot of times people have come from safari and they've done a 7-course meal 7 times in the day, and they just want simple, good food, and they want to get on with a little bit of active touring. And the nice thing about the local eats option, say for instance in the peninsula or the Winelands, they're frequented by the locals a lot. And a lot of the times the guests feel like they are in on something inside. It's an inside secret. So I definitely recommend the local eats here, and it's a little bit of a change from the big meals that they've been having on safari, or if they're going to go onto safari. And it just gives us a lot more time also to get out there and explore the peninsula and the Winelands. But yeah, that's definitely a favorite of mine.
Brilliant. And Jackie, in terms of the wild picnics, we know your secret spot now.
Yeah. So this is definitely my favorite. I love it because firstly, Nikki Gibbs, who prepares the picnics, super duper talented. I mean, she cooked for Nelson Mandela when he was released. For the first 2 weeks, she's cooked for David Bowie, Rolling Stone. So I mean, her list goes on. But I mean, I think that really what I love about her picnics is it's all glass, so no plastic, so recyclable, freshware, well thought out. Everything's local, from like the famous, like she uses everything South African. So as you eat, you're experiencing Cape Town, you're experiencing home. And I love, she even makes this really nice kelp salad. And I can even point out as we're sitting on the beach and say, you're eating the kelp, and you wouldn't even believe it. It's just the most tastiest thing. And I think, again, just that picnic, watching the ostriches walk past, kids are running around, playing ball, parents can eat fast, or again, we can be versatile, be on top of a mountain, again, gauging the guests and seeing what they're interested, where we're gonna have our picnic and with what view.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, that seems to be, it's worth doing at least once on one of the days, because it's such a highlight. And then we manage that in terms of, if there, like, well, Kirsty manages it in terms of if there's bad weather, then we will rebook restaurants. But generally in Cape Town, even in the winter, the picnics have been popular because you can always find a nook or a cranny to sort of escape the weather and have a picnic.
Exactly. And then with that, sorry, I just forgot, she caters completely to your dietary requirements. So whether you're vegan, vegetarian, people always say there's so much food there. So again, it's never just a ham and cheese sandwich.
Brilliant. So I'm just going to share again, so I wanted to see you guys. So I think that hopefully gives everyone a sort of, in a nutshell, that how flexible it is to move around and change what we're doing, having everything on board like that, and basically create these very special moments that are very personal to the guests. And we never, they're not over planned. It's really, if they're beach people or if it's a mountain day, we can change up what we're doing. The next main thing really is that our guiding team, and then our what we call our hop-on specialists. And rather than me do too much talking on it, I just maybe if each of the guides could introduce themselves, just their background in terms of how they ended up being a New Frontiers Escape guide. Let me just get you back on the screen. So, I mean, I'll start with Marcus. What led you here?
So I've been guiding down in the Cape region for about 15 years, and I spent a lot of my early 20s backpacking around Africa and Asia, and I think that time away, seen so many different places. When I got back to Cape Town and I put my roots down a little bit more, just realized just what an amazing special place we have, and I find it incredibly gratifying showing people these beautiful places and seeing the reaction that they get when they see them. But I also have a deep passion for the maritime history and the marine wildlife around here. And I just find it an incredibly powerful and emotive experience, visiting the Cape coastline here and looking out at the South Atlantic and the Southern Oceans. It's still a maritime rite of passage to come around here. So we've got this huge storyboard, and I just love talking about it. It does the job for itself. And it's just a way of me traveling without always traveling. It's a way of me expressing my passion for that.
Brilliant. And it comes out. I mean, we'll talk about the training later, but you've been heavily involved in sharing a lot of amazing stories. Josh, our surfing sommelier, how did you end up becoming a surfing sommelier?
Yeah, quite fortunate. Obviously, grew up here on the Cape Peninsula, so we of course are surrounded by water, and from a young age I was thrown into the deep end, I suppose. I was also very fortunate that I grew up on the foothills of Constantia, which just happens to be one of the oldest wine regions in what we call the New World, outside of Europe. So it was always a sort of a close part of my heart. And like a lot of South Africans, when I finished school, I left, headed over to England, spent nearly 6 years back and forth, got a law degree, and after 6 years realized that this is not what I wanted to do. So I came back home and was lucky enough through family friends to start working on one of the wine farms. That progressed. I managed a couple of farms in Constantia, and was very fortunate enough through, again, mutual friends to get connected with Ingram, Matt, and New Frontiers. And after doing a few tours, I obviously realized what these guys were up to. It was amazing. Couldn't ask for a better job, or the dream job that had fallen into my lap. And so here we are, 2.5 years later. Hopefully it just keeps on going.
No, and anyone who's toured with Josh, and I think as a team, his passion for wine sort of really, will get anyone wrapped into it. And then Matt. So Matt was one of the first guys to walk in the door. He wanted an office job, but we didn't let him have one.
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to be with New Frontiers Escapes from the beginning and help build some of the product with Janae and Millie and Ingram. And yeah, she's been guiding not as long as Marcus, on and off 6 years. Originally planned to become a general manager of a boutique luxury 5-star property. So I went to hotel school, majored in accommodation and wine tourism. And I did my stint. I did some time at Element House as an assistant food and beverage manager. Worked in London, the Mayfair Hotel, some beautiful boutique properties around Denmark, Spain, and France. But soon realized I didn't want to spend 50, 60 years becoming older and grumpier, and it was a bit boring. So I got out of it, walked into the New Frontiers Escapes office to apply for some product role, and it's been a great journey since.
Yeah, what Matt's not letting on is he was also worked for a tour operator in the UK doing sales for to Africa, and so in terms of training the guides, he's perfect because he knows both sides of the coin. Sorry, Jackie, and you and yourself?
Yeah, so born and bred in Cape Town, come from Stellenbosch, the wine region. And yeah, just after getting my degree in marketing, I worked in an advertising agency, but then went backpacking for 2 years with only 9 kilograms worth of stuff. And that was quite delightful. And after that, went to New Zealand, lived there for 2 years, lived off the grid, but had my own stand-up paddleboarding company where I did river expeditions. But came back to Cape Town because at the end of the day, I agree with Marcus, this is the most beautiful place. It's an absolute jaw dropper. I love free diving. I live for free diving actually. And yeah, just going into the kelp forest here, it's one of 9 in the world. There's more organisms per square meter than the Amazon. They say it's just, for me, it's just, I just get lost in this magical place and love sharing it with everyone who comes.
Yeah, I think, Marcus, I don't know if you can jump in here. In terms of a group of guides, there's a lot of energy, and although that we're a younger guiding group, the backgrounds and the knowledge and the knowledge that's shared is pretty amazing.
Well, it's a good point. Yeah, I think we quite an eclectic bunch of individuals, and we all have our own specialities, and we've all become a big group of friends, and we all feed off each other. Everybody has a speciality or two, and that makes us knowledgeable in a wide array of trips. But I always say that this group of guides lives and breathes Cape Town. They're not passive observers. So many times we'll be out on a tour and we'll bump into one of the guides on his day off, and they'll actually be surfing or wine tasting or doing some other activity. So they're not passive observers. We don't do our touring and then that's it. These guys are out there doing it. And I always mention, the guides are telling a lot of stories, but a lot of the times these guides are the actual story themselves. I find myself personally using a lot of the guides' own background stories on my tours. We have James, who's spent weeks in a diving belt at the bottom of the Bay of Bengal, and Chizzy, who's doing mountain rescue on Table Mountain, and Kirsten, who speaks 6 or 7 languages. So the guides themselves are providing the stories, but their stories themselves. And it's such a nice group of people to work with, because I think New Frontiers Escapes has injected a bit of youthful energy into the Cape guiding industry. And the guides can bounce, they can look after a honeymoon couple, and they can look after an elderly couple. We kind of the bridge between all the age groups. And I think that's what makes it special.
It's definitely, it's getting me excited to just get back out there again and get touring, just listening to you guys. What I just wanted, a second. Yeah, so we've got the guiding group. And we then sort of add more, for people that have particular personal interests. We've got what we call our hop-on specialists. So everything that we've talked about so far, really gives us that flexibility to work in what we're doing. The guides, which we'll talk about in a second, we've got our guide training that get the knowledge from these specialists. But where you've got people that have a bit more of a budget and you really want to bring in a sort of high-end specialist, the hop-on specialists make a big difference. Maybe we start with Matt on Harry, our touring wine master, and just to explain a few of our specialists, and we've got 12 in total that we tap into.
Yeah, so as you say, so you look at here, so you got Harry, who's the 101st Cape Wine Master in South Africa. He's also the head of the Cape Wine Academy, which is where I studied, and it's kind of the main institution if you want to learn wine farming, agriculture, and tourism, and winemaking. And basically his philosophy, which really aligns with ours, is having super fun, educational wine tastings. And you can, look at him here in a surf shop in Muizenberg, trying to probably find the wild gooseberries in South Tahiti in that Shannon. But basically, he's just a really big personality. He does a lot of our wine training, and as Ingram says, he can hop on as a specialist wine guide. And we do a lot of training, intertraining with him, within the guides. So if the guides are maybe have a stronger ocean background or adventure background, we all get together, and Harry, Josh, and myself, we'll go through the training and give kind of round everyone's wine knowledge in a fun and exciting way.
Yeah, and he's definitely, I mean, if you've got a really keen wine group, then you can't, I mean, Harry is the guy who trains the winemakers and opens up a lot of doors. Josh, in terms of Talita, we actually had training with Talita today, virtual training, and Josh came up a couple of times because you've done quite a few tours with her. But I don't know if you can give me a little bit of detail on her.
Yeah, of course. So fortunate that every now and again we throw on a specialist. In this case, an art specialist. Something I wasn't too into before, of course, was art. And she really opened up the door to me. I didn't realize that South Africa was really on the forefront of contemporary African art. I mean, if you look today, go and do some research yourselves, but if you go and have a look at the Zeitz-Marker or the Norval Foundation, or go and visit Dylan Lewis's sculpture garden, perhaps one of the most beautiful gardens in the world. These are just doors that have been opened to me through Talita. It's one thing going to visit these places. It's another thing getting a deeper understanding of the art, and the artists, and that's really where she fills the gaps. So yeah, just I can talk all day about the different places.
No, but I mean, in terms of Talita, I mean, she was basically looking after the art at Ellerman House. She wasn't, and she's an artist herself. She's an art historian, and she was just asked to show some journalists around the art collection. And then one of the guests said, "Could you book us a tour?" And it's ended up, and then the next guest that saw her doing a tour, and she's ended up becoming a sort of art guide. But you weren't at the training today, Josh, but she spilled one of your secrets. And I know before we came on here, in terms of an experience that she shared with you in Cork Bay, or an experience you can do art-wise in Cork Bay.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, I was hoping to still get away with that little secret, but you'll force me to spill the beans. She does take us, not just to these massive, new contemporary art galleries, but I'm just getting up here. I just want to show you guys a little something here. She showed me a little hidden gem in Cork Bay where I had access to get some Bushman art. I'm not sure if you guys, or how well you know, but the Bushmen are forced into a tiny little reserve between Namibia and Botswana. And there's only one gallery in the whole world that I know of that actually represents some of these guys and tries to give them, some access to some funds that they can then use to, get access to better education, fresh water, these sort of things. So I've myself invested in a couple pieces. It's absolutely beautiful. I have so many guests that I take through there, and I'm sure they have them hanging in a special place on their walls. Yeah, that's one of the really, really special places she's taken to me. Me too. I'm not going to give you any more. That's it for today. You'll have to come, but I do have more. And if you get her as well, I'm sure she'll take you to another special place. So yeah.
She very much opens doors. Yandy here, who's filling the page with a big smile. This is the other side, been art related, but she was collecting plastic off the beaches around Cape Town for sort of £1.50 or $1.50 a day, and ended up making this amazing art out of plastic they were collecting. And so, and we visit, it's actually in a township on the peninsula, so we go and visit her there. But she's become quite famous. She's been on CNN and Elle magazine, Vogue, and instead of leaving the township, she's created a creche or childcare within the township herself, funded by this plastic art with 52 children every day. So she's someone we often pop in and see. And I think this again, in terms of post-COVID, dare I say, this sort of traveling with a purpose. I think bringing out these stories is really important. And at the moment, she's this most entrepreneurial woman. She's now feeding over 800 children 6 days a week, a meal a day, out of the food that we're taking in there and other people are taking in. It's quite amazing. Finally, just on that sort of thing with Jackie, I just wanted to bring you in on the Rock Girls. I know you've done quite a few tours of the Rock Girls, and how that works on the tour.
Yeah, so I've been very, very fortunate to have some of the rock girls come and hop on tour with me, which I think is just so invaluable, as they give us such an insight into the whole spectrum of South Africa. They are incredible human beings. They've gone through so much, but they've also they give you such insight. They've now gone on. They started off, the organization started off with India with 10-year-old girls, and they literally just created the bench, and you sit and you chat, and at the end of the day, that's what humans, we all are here to connect. We all here to talk and share experiences, and they did this brilliantly. And since then, just empowered females. Most of these girls have now gone on to finish schools. They've now gone on to become journalists, guides, you name it. So really changed their lives, and they hop on and they're full of confidence. They're chatting, they're engaging, and just so open to talk about anything. And it's quite cool. There's just under 60 benches scattered through the city, beautifully mosaic, with Powerpuff Girls or any different decorations, and we can sit there and have a moment, and I think connect.
Yeah, I mean they actually join our adventure guide academy, where it's basically we brought in safari industry trainers. So Jessica Fender, who used to work with And Beyond as their hospitality manager, and training the guides. So beyond storytelling techniques, professional sort of hosting protocol. What's going to be quite key going forward is sort of the health and safety training and that side of things. So that it's highly professional, but builds in that flexibility. But I think what I want to go sort of onto and sort of finish off with is, now we've given you an insight into how the guides do the touring. There's obviously there's 300 wine farms. There's a lot of different places to go to. So it's how do we pick what touring, or how do you pick what touring people should do? So we basically divide it into 4 regions: City and Table Mountain, Winelands, Overberg, and Peninsula. These are sort of the key areas that people want to see. We obviously do have options out of this, but this is really the core of what people want to do. If they've got, they may even have to forego one of these if they've got 2 or 3 days in Cape Town. And then down by the style of tour. So active, obviously, for where we're more likely to do water activities, more strenuous hikes, and that type of thing. Explore, which is very much sort of avoiding the crowds, more cultured based. Quirky, which fits more with people that, as if it's their second visit to Cape Town, where we get even further off the beaten track, and we do activities like snorkeling with seals, getting out onto the zip lining in the Overberg. And family, we do a separate wild picnic on, because it's a real strength. Marcus and Matt, they're both young dads, and myself, I've got 3 children, and it's been a really big part of our touring, more to keep our own children entertained, but it's a real strength. But I think in terms of what you're picking for people, and I was going to maybe ask Marcus here, and that in terms of the flexibility, if someone has booked an active style tour, it doesn't mean that they have to be active, and vice versa. And how do you work that into the flexibility of a day? If someone's come and they've got one style of tour booked, but they obviously want to do things differently.
Look, I always say that guides thrive on flexibility. It changes our day up. It doesn't make it routine. And the last thing we want to be doing as guides is making people do things that they don't want to do. So we love to chop and change. And I always think, and I think the other guides think, we work within a range, and it can be anything. So you could be doing a day where it's the Peninsula, and you wake up and you feel like doing some wine tasting. We can do that. We have the skill set and the support to be able to change that itinerary around. But if you have a happy guide, you have happy guests, and if you have a happy guest, you have a happy guide. And it's incredible working with that flexibility. It definitely makes your guests a lot happier, And a key element is we'll sit down in the morning and we'll have a thorough briefing, and we will go through everything and all the options. I always think of Cape Town as a giant jigsaw puzzle. You've got all these different pieces, and every morning you can select your different pieces of the puzzle that you want to do, but it all falls underneath the same puzzle.
Yeah, no, I think that also is something that we kind of, with Matt, we were putting together the training program a few years ago, and Jessica was adding that structure into what we needed to do. We sort of asked quite a few questions at the time whether that would work, but how it's panned out very well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's all about, I think a big focus for us is also picking the right characters and building them and doing the training within a team environment. I think so often guiding across the world, not just South Africa, is quite an independent profession. So the ethos is to create friendships and to educate each other, to create this team environment, which again trickles down to the guest satisfaction. And then putting these structures, these formal things in place. Jackie, you'll probably mention the evening calls, or the morning meetings. We put these little black and white structures together so that it allows us to have the grey fun in between the day.
For sure, I think just connecting with guests the night before, you can really gauge what type of personality you're chatting with. You can know if they're looking for something specific, and then again with Kirsty we can correlate and chat about moving days around if the weather is bad, or so be it, so that you have a guest that really gets all their expectations, full satisfaction. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we are to do, just have fun, enjoy, as Marcus says, happy client, happy guests, happy guide, and we have so many options because it's Cape Town. So yeah.
So I think the key there for everyone was when you're obviously you can bespoke the trip to someone, and put their likes and dislikes in there, let us know, and then they've got that trip before they come. But it's having the confidence once they get here that the team can then really pick up on what what your guests really want to do, because they honestly don't know before what they want to do before they come. They meet people on safari, there's a new region they want to see, and people being able to build their own adventure like that, I think that's what makes it so special. So it takes it well away from a tick list. So
Ingram, sorry, just to add to it, what we found works really well is on the morning of each pickup, even if it's a 3-day tour, but specifically the first morning of pickups, is just again slowing things down with the guests, showing them a map and giving them the chance to create a bit of adventure themselves, and managing the expectations with a map so they can visually see where they are, what they're going. And it's great to also, as you're explaining this to a guest in the morning, you can see the eyes light up or the heads go down, and it's a great way for us to also then immediately after the morning briefing just give the office a call or a text or a voice note just to assist with any last minute plans we've made, so that while we're on the road giving all our attention to the guests, the back office team is frantically trying to rearrange our restaurants or activities for the day.
Brilliant. Well, I think now we've spoken. The main focus here has been really the confidence. Hopefully, everyone's getting from sort of listening to how it's done. But just to do a whistle tour of the 4 main regions, what the backbone of the day is, and how you manage the day. And we've started with Marcus. The city in Table Mountain is obviously quite often the first day. It's great. You're only spending 20 to 30 minutes in the vehicle the whole day if you just come off a long flight. Give us a little lowdown on your touring that you do there.
I think the thing that we're unique with our city tours here in Cape Town, and I think it's specific to Cape Town, is there's a lot of amazing cities in the world, but very few have so much nature on its doorstep, and it's got so many elements of the past. There's so much life in the city at the moment, and there's so much that's going to happen in the city. Just for example, Table Mountain, just sitting right on the city bowl, that single mountain has more plant species than the whole of the United Kingdom and New Zealand on a single mountain. And a lot of mornings when we've gone there for a city tour to pick up guests, there can be a little bit of trepidation that they're going to be going from museum to museum to museum. And I think what all of us like to show the guests on a city tour is you can go to the past. You can go and see a tree in the company gardens that was planted in the 1650s. You can go to the present, and you can go to a well-known coffee shop with a huge coffee culture. And then you can go down to an art district, which is going to develop into a major art district. So you get the past, you get the present, and you get the future. And if you want to do something active, you've got the mountain there. You've got these beautiful beaches. And the city tour is also within striking distance of so many other places on our doorstep. You've got Kirstenbosch Botanical Gardens. You can go down to the beaches. You can go to Halfway. So it's not just focused on that city bowl. There's a lot for everybody in the city tours.
Brilliant. It's getting me excited to get back. I haven't been to the city since March 25th, so I need to get back there. Josh, take us to the winelands. What's how do you sort of run a day through there?
Sure. Well, joining New Frontiers Escapes, we're going to try and start the day off usually a little bit adventurous. Most of our guests that we see are not really that keen on drinking wine at 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. depending on the pickup. So we usually start off with anything from a mild hike to something a little bit more extreme. We have places where we can rent sort of mountain bikes, take you into some of the trails. Something that a lot of people overlook is that in Stellenbosch, of course, you have one of the most beautiful mountain ranges again, and that's what we love to explore. So heading out on bicycles, hikes, and then even maybe a scooter through some vineyards. I don't know if anybody's heard of these downhill scooters, but you can go off-road through the vineyards. It's something quite special that we love to do as well. From there, it's obviously onto some of the beautiful wine estates that we have here to offer in the Western Cape. Some of them starting at probably one of the bigger, more well-known, fancier estates, perhaps owned by one of the bankers here in the Cape, and then onto one of the more boutique, smaller, intimate tastings where you can really get a better idea of the stories and the people, and of course incredible wines that the area has to offer. So. That's kind of just a really, really tip of the iceberg, glimpse into the winelands. As Ingram mentioned, hundreds of winelands in the area. I still haven't visited, nearly half of them, I suppose. But yeah, trying every day, and through you guys, just visiting and exploring more and more every day. So yeah, that's
I'm trying to get all your secrets out of you today. But I think one thing that I've noticed with all the guides is we obviously have wine farms that we work closely with, that we know the experience at, but you also, depending on the clients, will sort of dart off to some of your personal favorites. So what's your sort of secret farm, so to speak, or wine experience?
I was just thinking earlier of a farm that has it all. There is a tiny little farm that's owned by just a family at the top of Franschhoek, or the French Corner. They have their whole backyard available, which pretty much is the mountain. And we often take a couple bottles of wine, go for a hike into the mountains to a waterfall, perhaps stop there, look back towards Cape Town, have a little tasting. Just get to know each other a little bit better. It's far more relaxed. It's off the beaten track. It's what we want to do. So yeah,
you still didn't mention the name, Josh.
Yeah, no. Yeah. So for anybody that is in Cape Town, it's a must do. If you're out into the winelands, Franschhoek, the French Corner, and it's called My Wine, Mayvane. There you have it. Go and visit. It's a lovely couple. Welcome.
The owners literally treat Josh like their son, and they, when he walks in, they can see they're well up, and so they pass the bottles over, and he's opening the corks and passing them to Josh, because I think they put she won Best Cab Franc in South Africa, and I think they put so much into their wine. To hear someone like yourself talking about it, they've definitely got a soft spot, and that was, I think, go down as one of my favourite wine tastings. So
honestly, they treat everybody like that. They are the most warm, welcoming family that you'll ever meet. So please, if you have the opportunity, go and give them a visit. Yeah.
Sorry guys, I actually just want to jump in there and comment. Faithie and I were lucky enough to be on a tour with Josh around about this time last year, and he took us through to Mayvane. And just to reiterate that he really is one of the family members. I think he basically showed us through their kitchen after we explored the whole of the back garden. So yeah, he really is as insider as you can get on that note.
I'll give you the full tour there, Scotty. We gave you the full
100%.
tour, boy.
Preferential treatment. No, and I think that it isn't just I'm picking on Josh today because he's someone who does keep it close to his chest, so this is a good chance to get it out. But Matt's part of a Southern Peninsula wine tasting club with some of the top winemakers. And this has kind of been opening up doors for us to really sort of get to know people. And actually this time that we're having at the moment, virtually, we're spending quite a bit of time with winemakers and our third party. And it's been a really sort of, I can see a lot of collaborations coming out of this. And we've got, I think we've had over 20 different winemakers on a private tastings that we've been doing as a guide group, and it's left us much closer to them. Jackie, you've already mentioned the penguins, but your favorite is the Peninsula, so I saved that one for you.
Yeah, Peninsula is definitely my favorite. Of course, yeah, I think the penguins are always a highlight, but I think what I love about the penguins is it's not like you just have to stand in a crowded little boardwalk elbow to elbow. We actually can go kayaking, paddleboarding, you can even go for a little snorkel so you can really see them, which I think is really exciting. Even with guests before, I've seen the Cape clawless otter, which is, that's a rare sight, a very exciting sighting to see. Also, we go past one of the top 5 learn to surf beaches in the world. Have had 65-year-olds catch their first wave there, and it's just incredible seeing their face light up, families going together. It's just, the ocean does something, and especially here, we're so lucky on this peninsula to have one side of the ocean being 6 degrees warmer than the other side. I mean, you get 75-year-olds who are retired and maybe they can't move too much, but then I get them to put their toes in on one side and they're like, ooh, and then they go to the other side and they're like, okay, I know what you mean now, and just really feeling all those senses and just really connecting, seeing all the different type of antelope, the baboons. Sometimes they're a bit cheeky, they get on top of the car and they're like, look at themselves in the mirror, try and open and get to our little snacks, they love the snacks. Everyone loves snacks.
The baboons actually, they recognise the vehicles now because we can see there's that company with all the snacks.
They love it, yeah. Luckily they stay away from the beer, but yeah, the snacks are where it's at. But again, yeah, just so diverse. Again, it's on the peninsula that Bushman's, where you can bet the Bushman art. And then coming back and just, whenever I'm with guests and we take that signature moment on Chapman's Peak and you just look across that jaw-dropping, just the surrounding, the setting, and I show them that this is actually where you're looking at now, Dungeons, one of the 16 big wave surfing spots. There's a 70-foot wave that was surfed there, and you can just see it's almost too much to take in, and we just have that moment. They always say they could spend more time on the peninsula, and to me that makes it so happy. It makes me know that after seeing the whole world, everyone feels the same. This is the most beautiful place. So yeah. It's not biased.
Yeah, I think the peninsula is, it's one of those days which I think for anyone it leaves them thinking they start in the city. When they come back, it is a long day, but it's that extreme that really gets them looking back at, wow, I've done something very different. And I think it's the one day where you've obviously got a route that we're taking, but the way that we're doing it, getting away to the local spots, which you guys are also passionate about, it's almost showing off because we're skipping queues, like paddling around or walking on along the secret walks at the Penguin Beach and that type of thing. So it's always good. Yeah, and we're very, you see you guys out there a lot down on the peninsula where we're based. Matt, I'm going to end with you. The Overberg. It's probably the least. Well, it's definitely the least used. But I think it's an area not to be overlooked.
As you guys were talking, I see you've left me and the Overberg last, which I think a lot of agents do. As you say, it's overlooked. And it's a shame because it's incredible. It's really good, I think, for guests who have been to Cape Town several times and they want to explore something different, or guests who are here on a longer stay. But yeah, it's often overlooked, and for those of you who don't know it or what we're talking about, it's that little in-between place where you send guests from Cape Town to Gansbaai for shark cage diving. There's a beautiful stretch of Renosterveld and Fynbos and mountain ranges. You got Himmel and Arder Valley, some of the best Pinot Noir and Chardonnay in the Southern Hemisphere, and a great thing to do in peak season is to avoid the peninsula, Jackie, and take a drive around Clarence Drive, where you get, I mean, we've had multiple sightings of the Cape Caracal. You got beautiful whale watching vantage points. You got Stony Point penguins, so you can tick off that one, Jackie. But it's just a nice way of also giving guests an alternative to the crowds. It's a far lesser known, beautiful scenic drive. It is a little bit further away from the city centre, but we can make up time along the way and really expose a lot of that. And also really good for families. There's zip lining, wine. It's incredible and often overlooked. But I'm sure there's a lot of questions. I'm not sure, Scotty, if I've got a list of those. We can probably finish with some questions because we've covered quite a lot of the region.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's just about time to start wrapping up, but we do have a few minutes of questions. Yeah, the last 45 minutes made two things glaringly obvious to me. One, I'm nowhere near as interesting as any of these guides, just as I presumed. But the second is also just the emphasis on flexibility and the specialities that we have amongst the team. To any of our clients that are watching, it just reiterates the importance of sending through as much information as possible. I mean, I know Millie's an absolute master at tailor-making these itineraries to your guests. So as much information as possible, please do send it through.
Yes, go on.
Go for it.
I was just saying, sorry that really sort of brought home that point on the flexibility, but it's more. That's why I wanted to start the wild picnics with talking about what goes in behind the scenes, because it's having that confidence to know, right, okay, I'm going to pick the itinerary, I'm going to tailor it and make it special, but I know that I can hand it over to these guys and they're going to make me look good, and that's kind of what our job is to do. And it's really to demonstrate through this that flexibility is real, that everything that's in the back of the vehicle allows us to do that, and then the guides and the training, and hopefully that's come across.
100%. And then onto the first of the questions. Jackie, you did actually touch on this, but one of the questions that was asked is, are there vegan options? And thereafter, if you want to answer that first, then Millie, just for a bit of an elaboration on our tasting tables, because that's often overlooked as well, and one of my personal favorites. Jackie?
Oh yeah, so there's a lot of vegan options, and even with the picnics, like Nikki Gibbs does an incredible job, but even around here, so many different restaurants. I mean, Cape Town really is such a food hub, and definitely the trend here is food, like farm to table, and very accommodating, and we're quite clued up with that, nut allergies, anything like that, for sure. Even the snacks on board will get rearranged so that, we're not going to put biltong on for a vegan or, guest. We'll make sure that there's not any food products.
It means they have to come to the office that day, so we'll eat what the vegans leave behind.
Yeah, sorry, can I also jump in there and also reiterate that when chatting with with us, when we book the local eats and finer dining and picnics, it is actually so important just to, if they don't have any dietary requirements, please let us know, their nut allergies or any dietary requirements they do need. It's important just to let everyone know what they have. And like Jackie said, especially the guys that are packing the cars, so that, they know exactly what they're doing.
Cool, 100%. Either Millie or Ingram, if you guys want to just chat about the tasting tables.
Yeah, I think I called it the wrong thing earlier, but the tasting tables, well, Nikki Gibbs, who we mentioned, who does the picnics. We've got several different ones, but basically it's where it's a private experience. with a local chef using local ingredients, a top local chef using local ingredients. And it's a day where you don't want to fit too much into the day, because the lunch normally takes a good 3 to 4 hours. And with there being a lot of fine dining happening, whether it be on safari in the evening in Cape Town, this is sort of a way to break that up and make the, if it's a special occasion, someone's birthday, multi-generational family, that type of thing, one of the tasting tables is really a really intimate way of doing it. I know Millie, Nikki did you a lockdown tasting table delivered to the door, I believe?
She did.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did. I had my 30th during lockdown, so that was an interesting occurrence, but I was very fortunate to have an amazing spread from Nikki. So she did an incredible veggie delivery box for us. Yeah.
I'm guessing you asked the vegan question then, Millie.
Here's one, by the way. Who is one?
Ingram, and just on any other language guides that we can offer?
Yeah, so I think we were downplaying Kirsten, who speaks 9 South African languages and 4 European. It's Spanish, we've got German, Portuguese,
French.
Italian. So it definitely needs to obviously be requested. And that's all within out. So we've got 16 guides in total. And so within that pool, we've 3 of the guides speaking Spanish. So that, and we've got a guide that joined on the 1st of April. She's done training with us for 2 or 3 months now. So unfortunately, she hasn't been able to get out. And so, but amazing German-speaking guide that was born and brought up here, and then moved to Germany for a while. So we've got a good range of languages. Have I missed any, Millie?
I think you got them.
Yeah, I think you got them all.
Guys, Zulu if you like as well.
That's about it on the Q&A. So I think just in closing up, one thing that I'm constantly reminded of whenever I'm exposed to the guides that we have in front of us now is that here in South Africa, we're incredibly lucky to have access to these beautiful destinations and places like you can see in my backdrop, and that's spectacular. But even more special and unique than that is the people that we're experiencing those with. The guides that you see on your screen, the guys behind the scenes that ensure that all goes perfectly. And that really is what sets us apart. And I think I often joke, you'll never ever remember the color of your headboard wherever you're staying, but the way you experience a destination is what sticks. Just again, going back to Mayvane that we had that day at Josh showing us around and stuff, I'll never ever forget that. So yeah, guys, that's about it. Thank you so much to everyone for joining us. And if you do have any questions, feel free to pop us an email. You guys have your respective sales managers. We're always willing to chat about NFE, something positive. And yeah, this is the team that you guys have access to and at your disposal. So willing to do whatever it takes to make sure your guests have a phenomenal experience. Cool.
I think those first guests, you'll sort of judge by the sort of the eagerness of the guides here and ourselves. Those first guests that come are going to have one hell of a tour. We've got a lot to show off.
Cannot wait.
Awesome. Alrighty, everyone.
Awesome. Take care, everyone.
Have a good day.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Cheers.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.